In the early 20th century, segregation was a pervasive force in American society, with sports reflecting the deep racial divides of the time. The NFL, like many other professional sports leagues, enforced racial exclusion policies that prevented black athletes from participating, officially or unofficially, for over a decade. Initially, a few black players entered the NFL when it was founded in 1920. Players like Jim Thorpe, Fritz Pollard, and Bobby Marshall all showcased that non-white players could have a huge impact in sports. However, their inclusion in the sport did not last long, but a color ban soon followed, mirroring broader societal prejudices. This ban remained in place until 1946, when the NFL finally began to open its doors to black athletes once again. The breaking of the NFL's color barrier was not only a significant moment for the sport, but also a crucial chapter in America's journey toward racial equality. The stories of the players who broke this barrier reveal courage and resilience as they face discrimination and hostility on and off the field. This essay examines the history of segregation and integration within the NFL, the challenges faced by the first black players, and the lasting impact of these trailblazers on both the sport and society. Breaking the NFL's color barrier marked a critical turning point in sports history, setting the stage for future generations of black athletes and contributing to the broader struggle for civil rights and equality. When the National Football League was established in 1920, it initially included a handful of black players, a surprising fact considering the segregationist policies that dominated other American sports. Two notable early black players were Fritz Pollard and Bobby Marshall, whose presence in the league marked a brief period of inclusivity in professional football. Fritz Pollard, an exceptional athlete and coach, became not only one of the first black players in the NFL, but also the league's first black head coach with the Akron Pros. Pollard's inclusion and subsequent leadership role in the NFL highlighted both his talent and resilience, making him a groundbreaking figure in the early days of professional football. However, this initial openness would not last long. In 1933, an informal color ban began to take shape within the NFL, a decision influenced by the social and racial dynamics of the time. The ban wasn't an official policy written into the league's regulations, but rather an unspoken agreement among team owners to exclude black players. This decision reflected the broader racial climate of 1930s America, where segregation was deeply entrenched in public life. Many owners feared backlash from fans and sponsors if black players continued to compete alongside white players, particularly as the sport began to gain a larger, more mainstream following. As a result, from 1933 onward, black athletes were effectively barred from participating in the NFL, which soon became an exclusively white league. This period of exclusion lasted for over a decade, despite the talents of many black athletes who could have contributed to the sport. The NFL's stance on segregation mirrored that of other major American institutions at the time, upholding a racial status quo that limited opportunities for black athletes. The eventual breaking of the NFL's color barrier in 1946 was deeply intertwined with the shifting social and political climate of post-World War II America. In the wake of the war, the United States was undergoing significant changes, with a growing movement toward civil rights and equality. Black Americans, many of whom had served in the war, returned to a country that continued to deny them basic rights and opportunities. This hypocrisy became a rallying point, fueling calls for an end to racial discrimination in all areas of life, including sports. One of the first major signs of progress in sports integration came in Major League Baseball, with Jackie Robinson's debut for the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947. Robinson's entrance into the MLB challenged the racial status quo in professional sports, setting a precedent that influenced other leagues, including the NFL, to reconsider their own exclusionary policies. Robinson's journey was a national event covered extensively by the press, and his success helped create a sense of inevitability around the integration of other professional sports. The MLB's decision to integrate placed additional pressure on the NFL to address its own racial policy. The economic landscape also played a role in pushing for integration. After World War II, African Americans represented an increasingly important segment of the consumer market, and sports leagues began to recognize the potential financial benefits of attracting a more diverse fan base. The integration of sports could help increase ticket sales, merchandise purchases, and radio listenership among black fans, who had previously been marginalized by mainstream sports leagues. The NFL, which was still competing for attention and popularity with college football, recognized that broadening its fan base through inclusivity could boost its marketability and growth. Moreover, the civil rights movement was gaining momentum, with activists, religious leaders, and civil rights organizations demanding an end to segregation in all aspects of American life. Organizations like the NAACP were vocal advocates for integration, and their influence extended to sports. In Los Angeles, where social activism was particularly strong, local leaders and activists lobbied for the inclusion of black players in professional sports teams. These efforts culminated in increased public and political pressure on the NFL, especially as cities like Los Angeles began to offer their local teams municipal support contingent on desegregation. The convergence of these social, political, and economic pressures created an environment where the NFL's racial policies were increasingly seen as outdated and discriminatory. The demand for racial progress across American society set the stage for the league to take its first steps toward integration. This broader movement for equality, combined with the success of Jackie Robinson in baseball, created a climate in which the NFL could no longer ignore the call for change. By 1946, the league was primed to begin breaking down its own color barrier, starting with the Los Angeles Rams. The Los Angeles Rams played a pivotal role in breaking the NFL's color barrier when they signed Kenny Washington and Woody Strode in 1946. This historic decision made Washington and Strode the first black players to enter the NFL in the modern era, marking a definitive step toward integration within professional football. The story of their signing illustrates how community activism, media pressure, and strategic decision-making combined to push the Rams, and ultimately the entire league, toward integration. In 1946, the Rams were in the process of relocating from Cleveland to Los Angeles. The team was keen on securing the rights to play in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, a massive and prominent stadium that could attract large crowds. However, Los Angeles city officials and community leaders took this opportunity to challenge the Rams' exclusionary practices. They made it clear that the Rams' use of a publicly funded stadium would be contingent on the team integrating its roster. This stipulation was championed by black civic leaders, including Los Angeles City Council members and local activists, who insisted that public resources should not support a racially segregated team. The Rams faced a critical choice: either integrate their team or risk losing access to one of the premier sports venues in Los Angeles. Recognizing the potential economic benefits and the public relations opportunity, the Rams ultimately agreed to sign Kenny Washington, a move that broke the NFL's informal color barrier. Washington, a former UCLA standout, was widely regarded as one of the most talented football players of his generation, but he had been excluded from the NFL due to the league's racial restrictions. His return to professional football in 1946 marked a monumental moment in NFL history and signaled the beginning of the end for racial exclusion in the league. Shortly after signing Washington, the Rams also signed Woody Strode, another former UCLA player and an accomplished athlete. Together, Washington and Strode faced immense pressure and public scrutiny as the first black players in the modern NFL. Their presence on the team attracted media attention, and both players faced the dual challenges of performing at a high level on the field while enduring discrimination and racism from fans, opponents, and even some teammates. The impact of Washington and Strode's entry into the NFL went beyond the Rams and resonated across the league. By integrating their roster, the Rams set an example for other teams, demonstrating that black athletes were not only capable of competing at the highest level, but also capable of drawing fan interest and media attention. The decision to integrate proved to be financially advantageous for the Rams, as it attracted more fans, particularly from the black community, and increased the team's profile within Los Angeles. The courage and resilience of Washington and Strode in the face of adversity made them trailblazers, opening doors for future generations of black athletes. While their time in the NFL was marked by challenges and hardships, their success helped shift public opinion and demonstrated the viability of integration within the league. The Rams' decision to sign Washington and Strode was a pivotal moment in NFL history, setting a precedent that would soon be followed by other teams and contributing to the gradual dismantling of the league's racial barriers. While the Los Angeles Rams took the first steps toward breaking the NFL color barrier, another team, the Cleveland Browns, played an equally crucial role in integrating professional football. The Browns were part of the All-America Football Conference, a rival league to the NFL, and were led by the visionary coach Paul Brown, who was committed to assembling the best possible team regardless of race. Under Brown's leadership, the Cleveland Browns signed two black players, Marion Motley and Bill Willis, in 1946, the same year Washington and Strode joined the Rams. Motley and Willis would go on to become some of the most celebrated pioneers in the history of professional football. Paul Brown's approach to integration was practical and rooted in his philosophy that athletic talent should be the only criterion for team selection. Brown recognized the unique skills that Motley and Willis could bring to his team and recruited them without hesitation. Marion Motley, a powerful fullback and linebacker, brought exceptional strength and agility to the Browns roster. Bill Willis, a lightning-fast defensive lineman, was known for his speed and intensity on the field. Together, Motley and Willis contributed significantly to the Browns' success and were instrumental in the team's dominance during the AAFC years. The presence of Motley and Willis on the Browns demonstrated the competitive advantages of integration. The Browns quickly became one of the most successful teams in the AAFC, winning multiple championships and establishing themselves as a powerhouse in professional football. Motley and Willis proved that black athletes were not only capable of competing in the league, but could also excel and lead their teams to victory. Their performance challenged stereotypes about black athletes and helped to erode the resistance to integration within professional football. In 1950, when the AAFC merged with the NFL, the Browns joined the NFL, bringing Motley and Willis with them. Their inclusion in the NFL marked another milestone in the league's path toward integration. By this point, the success of the Browns and the undeniable talent of players like Motley and Willis had shifted perceptions within the NFL, encouraging other teams to embrace diversity. The Browns' successful integration served as a model for other franchises, showing that teams could benefit from selecting players based on ability rather than race. While the signing of Kenny Washington, Woody Strode, Marion Motley, and Bill Willis marked an important step toward integrating the NFL, their journeys were fraught with challenges. These pioneering athletes faced significant racial discrimination both on and off the field, from hostile fans, discriminatory team dynamics, and widespread prejudice in the communities where they played. Their resilience in the face of these obstacles not only paved the way for future black players, but also highlighted the systemic racism within professional sports and American society at large. One of the most immediate challenges the first black players encountered was the outright hostility from certain fans and communities. As Washington and Strode began their careers with the Los Angeles Rams, they faced jeers and insults from spectators who were unaccustomed to seeing black athletes compete alongside white players in the NFL. This environment of overt racism extended to nearly every game as they encountered hostility from fans in cities across the country. Some fans even boycotted games where black players were on the field, and certain stadiums imposed unofficial policies of racial segregation, refusing to allow black fans to sit alongside white fans. Kenny Washington, who had become one of the most celebrated athletes on the West Coast, dealt with physical pain as well as the emotional strain of being the first black player in the modern NFL. Although he was known for his remarkable talent, Washington had faced multiple injuries before entering the league, making his NFL debut physically demanding and difficult. Despite his challenges, Washington played for the Rams for 2 seasons, showing exceptional skill and determination. However, his career was cut short due in part to both the physical toll and the relentless scrutiny he faced as a trailblazer in a league that was only beginning to confront its racial biases. For Marion Motley and Bill Willis, the integration of the Cleveland Browns presented its own set of difficulties. Motley and Willis were powerful and effective players, yet they faced not only fierce opposition from fans, but also aggression from opponents on the field. Other players often targeted Motley and Willis with exceptionally rough play, taunting them and attempting to physically intimidate them. Willis, a defensive lineman known for his speed and athleticism, was frequently the subject of discriminatory comments and physical altercations. Motley, a bruising fullback, faced similar treatment, but used his size and skill to make a powerful statement on the field, becoming one of the league's most dominant players and leading the Browns to success, despite the adversity he faced. These early black players also encountered challenges within their own teams. Although some teammates were supportive, others were hesitant to welcome black players, reflecting the societal prejudices of the time. Washington and Strode's experiences with the Rams, for instance, involved a mixture of camaraderie and tension. Some players and coaches were uneasy about the integration of their team, making it difficult for Washington and Strode to fully integrate into the locker room culture. Motley and Willis, under Paul Brown's progressive leadership, experienced a somewhat more inclusive environment with the Browns, but even there, they were often treated differently and faced resistance from certain team members and opponents alike. In addition to on-field and locker room discrimination, these players faced practical challenges in their daily lives. During away games, black players were often denied access to hotels, restaurants, and other facilities that served only white patrons. This segregation forced Washington, Strode, Motley, Motley and Willis to make separate travel arrangements, stay in different accommodations, and often endure a sense of isolation. These limitations placed an additional burden on black players who had to overcome obstacles that their white counterparts did not face, both professionally and personally. Despite the isolation, hostility, and discrimination, the early black NFL players found ways to persevere and excel. They turned their struggles into fuel, demonstrating incredible resilience and inspiring future generations of black athletes. Their strength not only helped them achieve individual success, but also laid the groundwork for integration within the NFL and other professional sports leagues. The bravery of Washington, Strode, Motley, and Willis redefined what was possible for black athletes, breaking down barriers and altering the league's cultural landscape. By confronting and overcoming these obstacles, they showed that talent and determination could transcend racial prejudice, setting a powerful example that would resonate for decades to come. The experiences of these first black NFL players revealed the depth of racial divisions within American society and sports culture, underscoring the need for continued progress. Their perseverance in the face of adversity created a legacy of resilience and courage, encouraging black athletes to pursue professional sports despite the hardships. Their contributions to the game extended beyond the field, sending a powerful message about equality, breaking down racial stereotypes, and pushing the NFL and ultimately American society to slowly but surely move toward integration and acceptance. The breaking of the NFL's color barrier had profound implications that extended well beyond professional football, influencing both American sports culture and the civil rights movement. By opening the league to black athletes, the NFL not only changed the face of football, but also contributed to the broader societal shift toward racial equality. The integration of the NFL showed that diversity could thrive within highly competitive environments and laid the groundwork for future generations of athletes to pursue professional sports without being limited by racial barriers. One of the most significant legacies of NFL integration was the demonstration of the business and cultural benefits of diversity in sports. As black players began to join teams across the league, it became clear that racial integration enhanced the competitive landscape of football. Black athletes brought a wealth of talent, athleticism, and innovation to the sport, raising the level of competition and drawing in new fans from a wider demographic. This diversity in the player base helped the NFL grow in popularity, attracting audiences who were excited to see a more inclusive and dynamic league. Teams that embraced diversity reaped benefits both on and off the field. The integration of the NFL also played a symbolic role in the civil rights movement. Sports have often mirrored and influenced broader societal changes, and the inclusion of black athletes in the NFL became a powerful symbol of progress. At a time when black Americans were fighting for their rights in other areas, seeking desegregation in schools, access to fair employment, and the right to vote, integrated sports teams represented the possibility of a more equal society. The visibility of black athletes competing and excelling alongside white players helped normalize the concept of racial integration, making it more acceptable to the broader public and supporting the momentum of civil rights activism. This influence extended beyond fans, as young black athletes saw themselves represented on professional teams and were inspired to pursue their own dreams in sports and other fields. In addition, NFL integration helped to inspire similar changes in other professional sports leagues. The NBA, Major League Baseball, and other sports organizations began to follow suit, seeing the benefits of diverse rosters both competitively and commercially. The NFL's decision to welcome black athletes encouraged other leagues to take similar steps, contributing to a domino effect of integration across American sports. This growing inclusivity across leagues helped to make sports a more universal experience, one where talent and dedication were valued over race. By pushing the boundaries of integration, the NFL became part of a larger transformation in American sports culture. Figures like Art Shell, who became the first black head coach in the NFL's modern era, and Ozzie Newsome, the first black general manager, are direct beneficiaries of the racial integration that began in the 1940s. These leaders have continued to shape the league, bringing perspectives and experiences that further enrich the NFL's culture and operations. Their presence in these roles demonstrates the lasting impact of the color barrier being broken, showing that integration was not merely about allowing black players on the field, but about opening pathways for black professionals at every level of the sport. The broader societal impact of NFL integration can also be seen in the increased representation and opportunities for black athletes across American societies. The success of early black players in the NFL showed that black athletes could be leaders, role models, and voices for change within and beyond the realm of sports. Ultimately, the integration of the NFL was about more than just sports. It was a powerful testament to the potential for progress and unity in American society. By breaking the color barrier, the NFL demonstrated that sports can be a force for social change. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, I would greatly appreciate you pressing the like button and leave a comment down below. It really helps our video in the algorithm, and we are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers this year. We post about 3 videos a week and would greatly appreciate your support.